Hi friends, it's Amari from my Hiraya archives, and today we get to do something super cool. Well, actually, I thought it would be a great idea since I have all my inks out, because last night we did a ink swatching party, which was super fun. If you missed out on it, don't worry. There is a live replay for it if you want to check that out. However, I do know sometimes with lives, because it is live, that it takes a while, so it may not be um, easy to digest as far as viewing, unless you were there. And so I thought, since I had my inks out, that I can do a full video about my full ink collection, and I guess like tips and tricks of, the tools that I use to ink swatch, my recommendations when it comes to, especially for those who are beginning in their pen and ink journey with fountain pens and fountain pen inks. Just wanted to share some of my ways of doing things and tools that I use to make that inking experience a lot more better, or it enhances it a little bit, at least in my case. First off, I just wanted to thank everyone who did hop on my ink swatching party that we did last night. It was Friday night. It started at 9 p.m. and I'm pretty sure you guys probably had other things to do on a Friday night, and I truly appreciate you spending your time with me last night. But I just have to say, it was the most fun ink swatching I've ever done. Usually I do it by myself, but I had company and we were just chatting it up in the chat. I do appreciate those who are, chatting with me, and even those who were just watching. I appreciate, you guys tuning in, and those who popped in and popped out because, you guys are busy and just letting me know, like, hey, I'm here, but I have to leave it soon, but I just wanted to hop on. Like, I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a great experience so far. It was only my second live. The first live I did was a morning journal with me, and that was also, I loved it. And so um, from now on, we're going to be doing lives. I'm just going to create a schedule and like topics that we can do. But for sure, I still want to do like a morning journal with me and a night journal with me, and then some different topics. And so it was just truly fun, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciated the fact that you guys were watching the ads. Thank you, because that's a great way to support me. Even if you were just in there watching the live, that was great support to the channel. And especially thankful for those who, I don't even know what it's called. Is it called a super thanks? Where you can send like money. I had someone do a super thanks, and I was quite blown away by it. I was like, whoa, thank you so much. I actually will use that money. There's a project that I want to do this summer, because one of my viewers had suggested it, because I don't travel and journal. And I know a few people also mentioned this last year to me, that maybe I should try going to local cafes or to the park to journal. And I think that's an amazing idea, and I want to try it out. I suffer from severe anxiety, and so going out in public is very hard for me. And so I do want to challenge myself to do that. And so I will take the funds that you guys send me for the super thanks during our lives, and I will use those funds to fund me and my husband going out to different local like bakeries or little shops, coffee shops, and ordering something to eat, and then just kind of enjoying the atmosphere together with my husband. I think that's a great date for both of us, and so I truly appreciate it. So going forward, I think that's what I'm going to do. It'll help with that little project of mine during the summer. So thank you so much. Very, very appreciative. Hopefully you guys can catch a live. I'll put a schedule up so you guys in the description with every video that I'm going to post in the future. a schedule of our lives. So, okay, I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm really, really appreciative. So let's go ahead and get started with what we want to talk about here. I guess, as a beginner when it comes to pen and ink, my pen journey actually started back in 2017, 2018. And for the past 8 years, I didn't really do much with it other than buy pretty inks and buy pretty pens. And so my collection was pretty manageable. It was just a handful of inks. I think the last time I counted when I did my ink journal, I did a little like count how many inks I had before all hell broke loose. Was I think about 12 bottles of ink and like 15 fountain pens in the span of 8 years, which is pretty good. And so last year, it's on video, I had mentioned to myself that I would not buy any more fountain pens or any more fountain pen inks for 2026. I declared a no buy. And I said, I will use my fountain pens and my fountain pens that I currently have and enjoy what I have and go from there. Well, that didn't really work out for me because when I started intentionally using my pen inks and my fountain pens, it just opened up the floodgates. And I was like, I need more inks. I need more of this color. I need this type of pen. I need this nib, blah, 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 blah. And here we are. I want to say since January 2nd, 2026, because January 1 was my first and only no spend day. I'm very proud of that one day. But I have collected maybe about 50 bottles of ink. I don't know, you know what? I'm going to be proud of that. I collected 50 bottles of ink. I'm so proud of my collection, and a lot more fountain pens. But we're not going to talk about the fountain pens. We're going to talk about the fountain pen inks. And later on, I will show you my full collection. Currently, I do have 4. Do I want to admit this on camera? You know what? It's okay. I do have 4 more inks on the way, but in my defense, I did purchase this in the beginning of February, and it's just now getting to me. So, I mean, that doesn't count, right? I can say that the last time I purchased ink was like a week and a half ago. Very proud of myself. But that's not to say that I don't have inks in a cart in multiple places somewhere on the interweb, but that's neither here or there. But I will show you my full fountain pen ink collection, and I think I'm going to do it by color so you can see, I guess, like the different. I can compare it, and then yeah. We're going to talk about the tools, my favorite tools that we use, my swatching system, what I would recommend to use when you swatch, and then, yeah, let's go from there. Now that I kind of gave you a little rundown of my history and how we got to this point. Okay, so disclaimer, I am not an expert on any of these, so please feel free politely and kindly in the comments if you see something that I was wrong about. Just let me know, and let me know in the comments, or if you want to add on to what I said, please feel free to put it in the comments very nicely. Okay, let's talk about types of inks. Okay, from what I understand, there are about 4 types of inks. There could be a little bit more if we branch into like the different characteristics, but we're just going to go basic beginner style. There is shading, sheening, like a shimmer or glistening ink, and then there's like the permanent inks. Now I do believe I have all of these, and so I'm gonna pull out the inks that I do have. I'll do like the swatch card so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, shading inks. This could get really crazy because I have so many inks, but I'm just gonna go like with 2. That way it doesn't get so crazy. This is what we mean by shading inks. Now, when you put down an ink, you will see mostly at least the minimum 2 colors, a lighter and a darker ink. And to some, when I've noticed this on a lot of groups, people are like, what's wrong with this ink? How come it's looking like this? Is something wrong with my ink, with my pen? And all it is just the properties of the shading or of the ink. It's the shading. You have some light properties and some dark properties. And to some, it might be an annoyance. To some, it might be like the most beautiful thing. In my case, I love shading inks. I think it's my most favorite inks just because, I don't know, it's just so beautiful. But this is what we mean by shading inks. And then here is another example of a shading ink where you could see the light tones and the dark tones. And I just want to focus on the topic of the shading, and then we'll go into like details of what these inks are later on when I show you the full collection. Okay, so those are shading inks. Next up, we have our sheening inks. Now, I don't know if I have any sheening inks. Okay, I don't have a lot of sheening inks, but I'm gonna try to choose something that is close to it. This is the Pilot Shinkai, and if you kind of look at it, and if I kind of tilt it, there is like a shininess to it. I don't know if the camera is showing it right there. Now, if I show you against a shading ink, you can see that like this is more matte and this has like a sheen to it. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with the sheening inks and if it will clog your nib or if there's a specific, okay, this shows the sheen a lot better, but this also has some shimmer in it. So this is why I chose it, just so I could show you like the shimmer, or sorry, the sheen. I don't know if these will clog up your nibs. Like I said, I don't have very many of the shimmer inks, or the sheening. I keep saying shimmer. The sheening inks, not like with shimmer inks or glistening inks where they have little specks of like glitter that could clog up your nib. But that's something to look out for when it comes to your fountain pens. So that's that. The next one is the shimmer / glistening inks. And I found out last night I have about 5 inks that has this property. And let's see. Okay. So when we say like a shimmering or glistening ink, it usually has like the little glitters, depending on how large the shimmer is, the glitter that they put on there. This is what I mean when it comes to your fountain pens, that it could clog it up, especially if you have like an extra fine or a fine. Those glitter pieces can clog up your fountain pens. And so that's something you might want to consider. I was actually talking about this in my live, that I might, or I will just have certain pens just for my glitter shimmering inks. But as you can see, it has like that glitter when we compare it to something that just has the sheen minus the glitter, as you can see. Hopefully it's translating on the camera. And then this is another example of that glittering, glistening ink. Okay, next up we have like the permanent inks, the ones that is best for sketching. It's best for like watercoloring over it. I only have, I think, one that is perfect for sketching and for watercoloring, and it's the Platinum Carbon Black. So these are the inks that's best to put water over it, or when you're sketching, it's not going to smear. And these are permanent, so it's not going to fade over time. So it looks like this. And then there's also the types of oils. You have the water base and the oil base. Now that's something I haven't really looked into. So majority, all of these inks are water based. Okay, next up we have ways to store your inks. Now, as my collection grew, I know maybe this isn't something that you would think about for the future ink collection, but how to store your inks. Before I had this many, when I had a manageable amount, I actually just stored it in, or actually in a storage. It fit in there perfectly. As my collection grew, I invested in some wall cabinets, and that's where I store my growing collection. And if I need more storage, I can just keep purchasing those wall cabinets and find a space on my wall to add there. But there are other ways that you can store your ink collection. Another great way is if you have like a drawer, you could just store all your inks in there, and maybe put like a label on the lid so you can easily see the color. And then of course organizing it in a way that is easier to look at, whether it's by brand, by color, by properties, if it's a shading, shimmering ink. That is a great way. Another great way is to store it on like a 3-tier, 2-tier cake stand. That's another great way to store your inks. Or if you have like a nice metal box or a shoe box, one of your favorite shoe boxes, those are great ways to store your inks, or on a table in a way that inspires you. If you have like the space and you want to display it on your desk or on a dresser, that's a great way, or on a shelf. I would recommend maybe purchasing like those spice racks. That way it's tiered and you have you can easily see your ink storage. That's a great way. There's really, or you put it in like a nice basket, put it all in a container. You could really get creative. You could purchase like a nice wooden tray, or there's lots of different styles of trays that you could place. If you have a manageable amount as you're starting out, you could just display it on a tray. Those are great ways, but I think not a lot of people think about, hey, in the future when my collection grows, how am I going to store this ink? Because it does take up space, especially if your collection grows quite a bit. Since we are on the topic of organization and ink storage, I feel this is highly important if you want to try to organize your inks and your pens. And I can show you what I use. So I currently have 3 notebooks, actually 4. I do have a system now. This right now is working for me. I don't I can't say in the future when my collection gets big enough, will it be a hassle to do it this way? I don't know, because I'm not there yet. But right now I'm in a I am in my collection where this is still feasible, and it's still a great way to organize my collection. Now, if you're just starting out, it might be a lot easier because you only have so many entries. But what I don't recommend, because this was a lot where I purchased a lot of inks at one time. And so I think I had like 20 inks that I had to swatch, put in my system. And that was a lot of work. So, I mean, it does happen. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're buying inks. At least for me, I've learned my lesson. I'm like, you know what? I need to space out my ink purchases. So when I put it into my ink and pen journals and my swatching system, it's not so crazy. So, and then of course, if you're just starting out and you create this system in the beginning, it'll be a lot easier for your future self. And so I want to show you guys the system. So if you are starting out, starting it now will be helpful for you, and to help organize your ink collection as it grows. Okay, so I have 4 books here, and I've talked about this my in some of my videos before, but we will go over it for this one. Okay, so what I do have is this is an MD Hibino. It's a 2022. What I like to do is, because I have so many notebooks, that I thought, you know what, why not convert one of my old notebooks that I don't use or didn't use into a project of mine. And in this case, this was my ink swatching book. And so the way this works is, when I get an ink, I guess to kind of break down the anatomy of this notebook, there are monthly sections here that I use as index for the colors, to categorize it by color. And then the days of that month will correlate to the daily pages, which will be a full swatch book, or a full swatch page. It's a 2-page, because the Hibino MD gives you a monthly and then a 2-page daily. And so it corresponds to the month, to the day. And say, for example, July 1, I know that July is my orange category. And then on July 1, I do have the ink, which is Nostalgic Honey. I swatch it here just so it becomes an index. And then I go to July 1. And here I have a bigger page where I can swatch it a little bit better so I could see the properties of the ink. And then I also have writing samples of the pens that I use with this ink to give me more information about how the ink looks in different nibs. And I do this as I go. Every ink that I swatch will always have the Kakimori brass tip, because that is what I use to swatch my inks. So that will always be like the first entry. And then for this ink, I had my Jinhao 10 Press fountain pen. And so when I inked that up, I came into this book, made an entry, and that way I know, okay, it does look great in the Jinhao 10. And then the next one, I actually had it inked up in my Lamy Safari Yellow Broad. And as you see, I can see the properties of this ink in a broad Lamy Safari. And so this kind of helps me understand what pens work, how the ink looks, and have an inventory of my ink. So this is a great way for you if you're starting out, to go ahead and start a swatching ink book. And you can use any notebook. I even think that a ring system will be great too, just because you can take pages and move it around and stuff like that. And so in my case, because I have so many notebooks I didn't use, I felt like this was the best way to do it at that time. And it has beautiful fountain pen friendly pages. So make sure that when you do choose a notebook, that is a notebook that is fountain pen friendly. and it's close enough to, I guess, the paper that you use, but that's in another notebook I will show you. But for the sake of just ink swatching, just make sure that the notebook or the paper you're using is fountain pen friendly, because that can really help you. Because if you just use normal paper, you might get turned off by the ink and think that something's wrong with this ink. But in reality, paper quality is very important, and the type of paper is very important in inks and fountain pens. And you will learn, like I have learned, that there are different combinations of inks and fountain pens and nibs that look great on certain paper. And that's the reason why I have this type of journal. Let's go into the next one. It is my pen and ink journal. This right here, this was created because when I told myself that I wanted to use my fountain pens more in my journaling, which I did, but in my journal, it's an A6, and I don't really write a lot, and because I like to document my day, and so it was very little opportunity for me to write. And so I created this pen and ink journal for myself so I can create an opportunity for me to write more and to use my pen and inks more. And I'll explain how this is set up. So I chose to use my pen and ink journal in a traveler's notebook because of the fact that in a traveler's notebook system, you can have multiple notebook inserts, and you can categorize it however or use it however you want. And for me, this was the best way to do it. Now you can do a ring system as well, because I always say like the ring system is the best, but again, I am working with what I have. And I do have ring systems, but I wanted to use my traveler's notebook as a traveler's notebook, because if you're not new to my channel, if you're new to my channel, that's what I'm trying to say. If you're new to my channel, I like to hack my TNs, and I usually use my traveler's notebooks in different ways than it was actually intended for. And so I want to say this is kind of the first time that I'm using my traveler's notebook as a traveler's notebook. And I love using the pen and ink journal in the traveler's notebook. So let's get into it so I can explain to you what I mean. So I have 4 inserts in here, and recently I did add an insert here. But what I have here is I have a insert that I'm using as for when I do like stationary events, pen shows. I haven't gone to any of those. I'm going to my very first one in March. And so I thought to myself, I would love to have an insert that I take with me to any of those events, and then I could stamp it if there's any stamps, use the stickers that they give me and put it in here, and just be a record book of those types of events. And so that is what I have here. I did start collecting shop stickers that I buy my pens and inks from, and I've just been adding it to this front page. I still have a few more that I need to put on there, but that is what I'm doing. And then I'm just kind of going as you know, whatever the events come up, but this is just for that. Now, this is what I mean about having the traveler's notebook. The pros about this is the fact that I can use different inserts. Now, this right here is an insert with my MD paper. Majority of the time, I'm using either MD paper or Tomoe River paper. And having this insert allows me to just write. Anytime I have a new pen inked, I will do an entry in there and then just do my initial thoughts. And a lot of the time, none of this really makes sense. It's just putting pen to paper, and sometimes I'm like blah, 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 blah. But it allows me to use that pen and ink and try to understand the properties of that combination. And this has just been one of those pen and ink journals where anything goes. You know, I've done different entries in here, whatever my heart desires when it comes to this pen and ink journal. I even printed out photos of my fountain pens and pasted it in here. And I did like ink swatches. I mean, it's kind of overkill with my ink swatches, but again, it's just me giving myself opportunity to see these inks. And so when I did my ink swatching party, I knew that I had to do my whole collection, and I didn't mind because it allowed me to be in my inks again and to look at the inks. So this is an MD paper, and I also have a TRP, a Tomoe River paper insert. This is a Baumkuchen collaboration with the Travelers Company, and this insert is filled with TRP paper. Now, TRP paper is the paper that I'm using in my journal because I am using a Hobonichi Techo. And so having two inserts in my little traveler's notebook allows me to test my inks and my pens in a different paper. And since I use my Tomoe River, my journal is in Tomoe River paper, this allows me to see how it would act on my journal. And to tell you the truth, I love MD paper, but there's something about fountain pen inks, well, majority of the fountain pen inks that I've tested on Tomoe River paper, it's just so nice. I love how it looks on there. And so, but yeah, so having this it gives me more opportunity to use my pen and inks. Now, this is the most recent addition. It is the Travelers Company card file. I wanted a way to be able to compare the inks that I have. And the way I swatched my inks, like in this notebook, it was kind of hard, even though it was, by color category. But if I wanted to say compare this orange to this orange, I would have to kind of do this. Or if I wanted to compare it with another color, it would be kind of hard. You know what I mean? And so I do have like a Traveler's mini edition, like card swatching, which is a great way as well. But I wanted something a little bit bigger, something that I could put in my ink and pen journal, because as you can see, I was swatching it in here thinking like, oh, that's probably a great way to do it, but it's not because I can't move it, right? And so this is what I decided to do. I got the Travelers Company. Oh, and a little bit about this. This is just a Traveler's notebook that I cut down. It was just the scrap part of a Traveler's notebook that I cut down, and I created this myself. So you can't buy this anywhere, but I did create this. And so I decided to get this insert. It is the number 28 card file insert. And I decided to purchase these card swatching. And so now I can add it to here. And whenever I go to a stationery shop, or if I'm trying to compare colors, it's going to be a lot easier because I can take it out. I can go to another one. It's just a lot easier. And I love that. And so that's the reason why I'm doing this and adding it to my pen and ink journal. And I feel like this completes it. This makes it the most functional pen and ink journal that I have for myself. And so everything just sits nicely in here. And when I'm going to go to my events, I can just grab this and take it, and I'm good to go. And then the great thing too is that I do have a currently inked paper, and this is something that I always do, and I highly recommend anytime you ink up a pen of yours, add it to your currently ink card and put it somewhere where I have like 3 of these. I have one here, one on my desk, and then one in this book, which I'll talk about next. But it's a great way to know what is currently in your inks, especially if you ink a lot of pens at one time. Now, I didn't do that before, but now that I'm into my fountain pens and inks, this is the most I've ever inked as far as my pens, and it can get crazy. And I'm like trying to figure out what's in here and what's in that. So I think it's a great way to keep yourself organized. So this is my pen and ink journal. I highly recommend, if you're starting out, to start a pen and ink journal. It doesn't have to be in this form. It could be in a notebook. You can, tab it out, whatever works for you in your brain. But I highly recommend a pen and ink journal. It's one of my favorite journals at the moment because I'm currently so into my fountain pens and inks that it has become one of my daily used journals. So, okay. And this right here, this came in because I needed a way to organize my fountain pens and understand the properties of my fountain pens, because if you're like me, there is a lot of information when it comes to your fountain pens. You're talking about nib size, if it's made out of stainless steel, if it's gold, what nib size it is it broad, is it medium, is it fine, is it extra fine, does it interchange with different things, what's the name of it? There is just so many stuff, trust me. And I needed a place to dump all that information so I didn't have to memorize every single pen. Now, I know as I grow into my journey, it might just become second nature and just remember certain things about certain pens, especially if I'm using it all the time. But I just needed an area or a place where I can drop that information. And this is where it is. I call this my fountain pen profile book. And I have it currently housed in a Me Plus narrow slim pad, which was graciously gifted to me by Laura from Me Plus. And I did do a video about this. I'll link it in the description box if you're interested in seeing that. But I love using this as my fountain pen profile book. And like I said, it's basically that. It's a fountain pen profile book. And I have it categorized by brands. And I just have it tabbed. I am currently using these Midori metal tabs. I like these because they're just really slim. And I just have an index here where I list, like, the tab 1 is for my Diplomat pens, tab 2 is my Kaweco, and then each tab I will have all my fountain pens listed on there and the properties. Now, I did have writing samples, but I figured that was kind of overkill, so I took those out. And now this just lists what I have. I don't know if I kind of want to streamline this a little bit and have it look a little bit more cohesive. That's another project that I'm going to do later on, but for now this will work. And that's basically what it is. It just tells me what fountain pen I have. You know, if it's a fine nib, the body, if it's swappable, how much I paid for it. And that's pretty much it. All my pilots, at least I know this is all the pilots that I own right here. And that's pretty much it. I do have a currently inked here because, like I had mentioned, my currently inked, I have it in like 3 places. Here, just in case if I do just end up bringing this, at least I know what I currently have. And I also have a mini ink collection swatch, a mini one. So this is all the inks that I currently have. This is everything. And so again, if I only want to bring this, I have all the information that I need. And so that's really nice. Now, if I just brought this, I don't have all of my fountain pen information in here. And so I don't know if maybe I'll create, but I feel like that's overkill because if anything, I could just bring these two. It's very slim and minimal, and it can go together and won't add too much bulk. So just like so. And as you can see, I do have a theme going. It was actually by accident. And so I'm continuing that theme. So if I do add something else, it'll be in the olive. So that kind of triggers my brain like, oh, this has to deal with like my fountain pens or my inks. So see, this is even olive green that I just realized it all goes together. A happy accident. Okay, so now that we have my ways of organizing, I'm going to kind of share with you the different tools that I use to swatch my inks when they come in. Okay, now these are the tools I use. You don't have to use this. There are like more simpler ways to swatch your inks, and I'll mention those too. But this seems to help me, I guess, enhance my experience when it comes to my inking and swatching. Okay, so let's go over my favorite tools that I use to ink swatch. There are many ways to swatch your inks. I will show you my favorite way. This is a Kakimori brass tip in a mini wooden holder. Now, the Kakimori, I think I know it comes in 2 sizes. This is the long holder, and this is the mini holder. Now, when I first started, I decided to get the long one, and I realized after swatching, this wasn't very, I guess, comfortable in my hand. Just because it was too long, and so I wanted the mini version, and so that's what I did. I grabbed the mini version, and this is my favorite way to swatch my inks. It gives me so much line variation. I can swatch it like this, and then I can create thick lines, I can create thin lines, I can write with it. It just makes it a lot easier where I'm not switching out my pens, because that can get really tiresome really fast. And so this allows me to do a lot of different things with just one utensil. Now, another way, you don't have to use that specific one, but like I said, this is my most favorite way. Another way you could probably do it, you can use a brush. You can use any brush, and you can use that to swatch, or a watercolor brush. Now, the only thing I don't like, well, actually, maybe I shouldn't recommend this, because you have to, if you're inking a lot of inks, you're going to have to clean it every time, every ink that you swatch. And so I don't recommend this. So don't listen to me on that. You can use a brush. The only thing I don't like about using a brush is, like I mentioned, you will, unless you're just swatching one ink, then this will be okay. But the thing is that you have to make sure that it's clean in between each ink swatch. So that's the reason why I prefer this brass tip, because it's easy to clean between ink swatches. Another way you could do it is you could use a spoon, like the back of the spoon. I've seen people do that, but the only thing with that one is that it's kind of like a two-part process, right? You can't like dip your spoon into the bottle, because most likely it doesn't, it's not, the opening is not big enough. So you would need like a little pipette or something to withdraw the ink, put it on your paper, and then use this to kind of smear your ink. So it's a two-step process. I mean, it's feasible if you don't want to purchase anything and you have these laying around. It's a great way to do that. So that is one way. But again, that will require a little bit more steps of cleaning your pipette. So you're going to need water, which you should have water all the time anyways, but you would probably need a few waters for cleaning this, dumping out the dirty, and then just making sure this is clean. And as well, this is clean. So you do have extra steps when it comes to in between swatching. Now, again, if you're just doing one, then go for it. But this is just my opinion when it comes to it, because I've tried all of it, and I've realized it's like, ooh, I don't like how that is. That's the reason why, again, I like this. Dip it into my dirty pot of dirty water, and then dip it into the clean, wipe it, and we are good to go for the next ink swatching. You can use like a syringe if you are, using like the spoon method, or if you have like a bottle and you want to use like the bottom of it to like spread the ink around. That's another way. Again, I feel like it's just too many steps. And for me, I'd like to just streamline my process. So that's, another way. Or you can use a Q-tip, the good old Q-tip. The one thing though with Q-tips is that it can absorb the ink. And so laying it on your paper could use a lot more ink. It is not my favorite way, but if you are in a pinch and just want to swatch it really quick, Q-tips are fine. And yeah, I think that's as far as when it comes to like what the tools that I use to swatch it. Again, my most favorite way is this. There are different dipping pens that you can use, but the Kakimori one is my absolute favorite, and it is the most used tool that I use when swatching my inks. Another tool that I haven't used this quite yet. Well, I actually used it one time, but these little empty plastic vials are great if you decide that you want to mix your own inks, if you want to combine your own inks. These are great and very inexpensive, these little plastic vials. And so, you know, if you want to customize your inks, you could put it in here. Or say, for example, you have a ink or a pen that's inked and you're ready to change out that ink. I mean, you could probably spill the ink and not use it ever again. Or if you're like me and feel guilty about wasting ink, you could use this to store those inks as well. So I feel like having this on standby is great, just in case. And while we are on the topic of this, having a little container to put all of your supplies in will help you keep yourself organized. Okay, since we were talking about little vials of plastic, one thing that I highly recommend that you have are little jars or little vessels to use to house your water. I recommend using distilled water because you want to make sure that there's no contamination, no minerals in there that you could put back into your ink. And when you clean your pen or your swatching pen, whatever you use. In my case, I only need two. I keep one for my dirty water and then one for clean water. So when I am swatching, this will have ink on it. So I'll dip it in the dirty water to get the ink out. I'll wipe it and then I'll dip it in the clean because usually all the residues or all the ink's gone. And that'll let me know that, okay, this is clean. Like, I know this is clean. And so that is my 2-water process. You might need a little bit more jars if you have like a 2-3-step process if you're using a spoon or a pipette. Again, like I mentioned, make sure it's distilled water. If you are using, or another way that you can swatch your ink is if you have like a ink well where you can transfer ink into here, and this is what you use to swatch. The only thing with that is that you kind of use more ink than you need. And so I don't ever use this at all unless maybe I'm using it to mix my inks. But other than that, you could probably use this to hold ink or water as well, but it's quite tiny. I recommend like a nice size jar. This is actually a dessert jar that I got from Costco. It had dessert in there. And I do that a lot. I will buy the dessert. I know my family would eat it, but I'll buy the dessert just so I could have the jars. So highly recommend having this in your toolbox. Now, when you're swatching, there's different ways you can swatch. Like I mentioned, like my swatching notebook. This is one thing that I love. I started using are these swatch cards. This is made from Wearingales. They're called the Ink Color Chips, and they are there are different designs. I just chose the ink bottle for now, and I love this one because of the fact that it comes in 100 sheets, so that's more than I need, but I have enough left over for my growing collection. And it's on this cardstock, but I love the feel of it. It's nice and smooth, and when I swatch my inks, they swatch really pretty. It doesn't bleed through, and it shows the ink really beautifully. And so I recommend these. I haven't tried like all ink swatch cards. However, I found this out yesterday on my ink swatching. I mean, now that it's dried, it's not as bad. But when I was swatching it online, it was warping the card, and I didn't like it. But now that it's dried down, it's actually quite cute. So maybe I will use this. So I was using this for my ink samples, but when I was swatching it, it was warping it. And I was like, I don't like these guys. But now that it's dried down, it dried flat. So maybe I will continue using this. But this is by Tono and Limbs. And I chose this because I wanted to use this as my sample ink swatches, because it's different from this. And this kind of shows me at a glance that, okay, this is a sample ink bottle. And then once, if I do decide to purchase it, I will put it on this. So last night when I was watching my sample ink, because of my experience, I decided to put it on this ink swatch card, and it's this right here. But now that I see it dried and the card is not warped anymore, I think I will go ahead and I'll just put this right here. So I'll put that together, and I know that this is what it is, and I will just write it in ink what this is, and at least at first glance I know this is an ink sample. So there are different ink swatch cards. You can actually make your own. Just make sure that you use the right paper or cardstock. There are like multimedia cardstock that you can buy, or watercolor, but just remember, because they are multimedia or they're watercolor, that it might not show like the properties very well. It might feather, it might be a little bit, it could absorb the ink too much. And so if it's just a color representation, then that would work out, but then you would kind of waste your energy. I would just say invest in these card swatches, because they actually work really well and shows the properties of your ink quite well. I don't know what kind of paper they use. Let's see. It is 200 grams of impression paper. So there you go. So highly recommend this. I just love the versatility of these. Like I said, you can, in combination with my ink swatch book, this helps a lot too, like I had mentioned. So, and there are many different ones. These are the only ones that I currently have. So if you know any good color chips, let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely check that out. Okay. Very important. Very, very, very important. You want to make sure that you have paper towels and a rag. I have both. This is what I use to wipe my pen and to build a beautiful colored rag. Now this is just a 100% cotton rag that I got from where did I get it from? Home Goods. It's by Mac Studio. You can use any, but make sure it's like 100% cotton that can absorb the ink. I actually had linen, but it wasn't absorbing nicely. And so the type of rag does matter. You don't want it to be slippery. I don't like that feeling where the liquid just kind of sits on top. I find that 100% cotton is perfect for that. And then also to have paper towel and even like sheets of paper to put underneath your ink, especially if you are doing like a large ink swatching session. Just being able to cover your surface to make sure that you protect it. I have a mat here, but I didn't want to get ink on my mat because I love this mat. So the way I had it set up is I would have my paper like this, and when I would swatch my ink, I would put my ink right here. I just used regular computer paper. I just put it under there just to protect the path of when I do this. It will go here. And then I had my swatch card right here, and then I would swatch. I had my rag here, and that was how I did it, my little setup, and it's perfect. When I'm using this, I could just either lay it down here, or I could lay it here. I could lay it, wherever around this area. So that was my system, and it worked really well, and it allowed me to go through my motions quite effortlessly. It's like having the perfect triangle in your kitchen, if you guys know what I'm talking about, where you have your stove, your sink, your fridge. You have that perfect triangle, you have that perfect working station. So that is what I definitely recommend you should have. It is a must, honestly, to have something to wipe your inks on. Okay, I'm going to mention some bonus things that can help. It's not necessary, but it will enhance your experience. Is a flushing tool for your fountain pens. Now, I know we're talking about inks, but I wanted to put this in there. Is either a flushing tool. I think they sell like a syringe that you can do, or you can just get these. You guys know this. If you have kids, you know these little syringe bulbs that suck out snot. I never would have thought to use something like this to flush my ink. Or usually I just blow into my my fountain pens. Or you could use something like this. A way to flush out your fountain pens. I just wanted to mention that. Another thing is something to blot your ink. If you are working like in your journal, I have this beautiful gallon leather ink blotter, and you just like when you write, you kind of use this to blot. Or I think it's too fancy for my inking swatching system, but I did want to mention this. Or you can just use a paper and just blot it, if it's not drying fast enough. But my favorite way to dry your ink when you're swatching is this. This is a hot air gun. And this is very inexpensive. I actually use this for watercoloring when I'm painting, when I'm trying to dry my watercolor. And I thought I could probably use this for when I swatch my inks. And so whenever I'm swatching my inks, because I do it on my book and then I do it in my my little mini swatch book, I do it in different areas. I don't want to wait for the ink to dry. And so this is what I use to dry my ink. And it literally takes like 5 seconds to dry the ink. So I highly recommend having this tool. It would be great to have in your toolbox, especially if you are swatching a lot of inks and you don't have to wait, especially in a book and you got to, turn the page. Highly, highly recommend. Also, great tools when you're swatching. I don't have one, but is a stamp. Now, this is a fountain pen stamp. So if I got a new fountain pen, I could stamp it, write the name. But they do have like ink bottle stamps, like empty ink bottle stamps. And you can do that instead of like ink swatch, or if you're making your own ink swatch cards, you can stamp that ink bottle and then put your ink swatch in there to make it more consistent and cohesive on your page. I think it's a great tool to have. Again, I don't have the ink bottle, but you know what I mean. I'll maybe insert a photo of what I'm talking about. But this is another great extra tool that can work for you. And like I had mentioned, again, I'm going to mention it again. For your ink swatch cards, another tool that I highly recommend if you are looking for a way to store your ink swatch cards is one. If you are using a traveler's notebook, the traveler's notebook insert 60 pockets, the card file works great. But also, if you have a clear album that holds cards, this is another great way to hold your swatch cards. I was actually going to use this to hold my swatch cards, but I didn't want another notebook to put with my system, and because it's traveler's notebook, I was like, I might as well put an insert. That'll be a lot better. And so this is another great way. If you have like a card file album, those are a great way to house your ink swatch cards. Okay, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about when it comes to inks. I guess the only thing left is to show you my full ink collection. Now, I could go over each ink and talk about it, but I feel like that would make this video like 3 hours long because it's a lot of inks. So what I'm going to do is I will show you the inks I have, the bottle, and the ink swatch card. I'm going to go by color, and after each color, I will lay out all the ink, or that ink color, all the ink swatch cards in that color together so you could look at the difference. And I'll do that for each color. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 color categories. And I will just throw on some music, and I'll probably speed this part up because I'm going to be going quite slow, and I'll speed it up so you're not waiting 10 minutes for me to show my ink collection. And then I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so let us go ahead and get the ink collection show started, shall we? Okay, friends, that is my whole ink collection. We went through it all, and I've learned that there were 2 inks in my collection. I learned this last night when we were doing the ink swatching. There were 2 inks, I'm gonna put it aside, that I did not like for a very long time. And after swatching it last night, it changed my mind, which was so funny. And actually, I didn't even show it to you. Okay, before I talk about it, here's one more. It's from Ferris Wheel Press. And then here is the ink swatch card. Okay, now that is the complete collection. Like I had mentioned earlier, is that when I was swatching, I was telling everyone on the live yesterday that there were 2 inks in my collection that I did not love. I didn't like at all. And funny enough, when I was swatching it, I was like, hold up, this is actually really pretty. I kind of like it now, and I'm so happy that it's actually in my my collection. And it made me happy because I felt bad that I even had it in my collection. I even thought about selling it, but I'm so glad that I didn't sell it because it's probably going to be one of the next ones that I ink up. And it is these 2, the Ferris Wheel Press Cream of Earl and the Colorverse Sea Europa. I did not love this color for the longest time. I got this back in 2017 or 2018. I won this on a giveaway. I don't remember who it was, but I won it, and I just never loved it. And because recently I discovered that I love pink inks. Never would I think that I would love pink ink. So maybe that is the reason why I've changed my stance on this ink, because when I swatched it last night, I was like, I absolutely love this color. This is a beautiful rose color, and like I had showed in my live, it is a great rose color. Now I'm trying to find, look at this. It is beautiful, and I'm so happy that I have it. So it's a little darker rose color, and this was the favorite last night when it came to the pink colors, which was the Kobe Ink Strawberry Chocolate. It is a beautiful color. But yeah, I fell in love with this color, and I'm so glad it's in my collection. This right here, now that I see it swatched, I realize that maybe I just need to have a more broader nib. And as I was actually swatching it last night, it just looked like I was putting water on paper. I did not like it. But then as it dried down to this beautiful, like, I don't even know what color to call this, but I love this color. And so I'm going to definitely use this on a much broader nib. I recently did get a double broad. Maybe I'll use it in this one, but I don't want to put it in this one because this is a blue. I do have some bent nibs that are coming in from AliExpress, the Jinhao 82 minis, because I love those. I will probably put it in one of those because, and I did purchase like a light color pen, so I'll put this ink in it, and I will start using it because it is just, it's a gorgeous color. At first I was like, I don't like this color. When I first purchased it, I even contacted the stationery shop. I'm like, something's wrong with this ink. I can't see it. But I think it was because I was using it in an extra fine pen. And so, yeah, I wasn't able to appreciate it because I thought I was an extra fine girly. And that was because I wasn't understanding my fountain pens and my inks. So that is my bad. I love this ink, and I can't wait to use it in my journaling. So, okay. Oh, that was a lot. That is a lot of ink. Like I mentioned, I started out with like 12 bottles of ink in the span of 8 years. And then in the span of almost 3 months, I collected, I purchased triple that amount, which is insane, but no, I'm okay. I love every single one of these. Now, would I recommend you doing this as far as like purchasing full bottles? I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's an impulse. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe it's a skill that I can see an ink bottle online and say, you know what? I'm going to love this ink. I know it's good. I'm going to love it. It's a skill, right? It's a skill / luck. And it comes in and I absolutely love the ink. I'm not going to call it impulse. No, it's not an impulse. It's skill. It's a superpower. But if you don't have that skill or superpower, I highly recommend grabbing some ink sample bottles, and they're a lot more friendlier on the wallet. And I just recommend having a sample or an organizational system when it comes to your ink samples. I've seen people where, like in my case, my ink sample system is going to be like this. I am going to swatch it on this card. This indicates to me that it is a sample ink bottle. And when I do purchase a full bottle, I will migrate to this and I will just do this in my ink swatch. And I also do the same thing in my swatching book. I dedicated December for my ink swap or samples, and so for the month of December it's for my ink samples, so I know I have 2 ink samples. And then if I go into December, there is my ink sample swatching. So I highly recommend that you create a system for yourself. Otherwise, it could get really chaotic really, really, really fast. And your wallet will thank you if you have a system. And then you can make better decisions when it comes to ink choices. Make sure that you don't buy like the same inks. Like I found out yesterday, these 2 Robert Oster inks are pretty much almost the same. So I could have just picked one and grabbed a different color. But I didn't have this great system in place. So yeah, I could have spent that money on a different ink. So having a system in place will definitely be a lot better for you as far as making better decisions when it comes to inks. And to not like buy duplicates or inks that are almost the same shade, especially if you're like me who don't have like a stationery shop that carries inks locally. I have to buy my stuff online. So, okay. Whew. I will be spending the next hour adding that to my ink journal, which I'm excited to do. I'm actually probably going to do it by color. I did put this inside my ink journal last night, and I quickly realized that I need to be a little bit more organized on where I'm going to put these ink cards. But that is what I'm going to be doing later on. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. It is the last day of February. We will be springing forward for those who participate in the daylight savings time. We will be spring forwarding our clock next week. Are you guys ready for that? Is it next week? Yes, next week. I am ready for warmer temps, but I think right now we are going into some cold temps in the next few days, so yay. All right, friends, if you made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me this Saturday morning, it is Saturday morning, so it might be, hopefully I can get this uploaded today. YouTube has been crazy. Sometimes it takes like 5 minutes to upload my videos. Sometimes it takes a full 24 hours. I don't know what it wants. So hopefully this shouldn't take too long to upload and to edit and all that stuff. So all right, friends, thank you for joining me. If you made it this far, I super appreciate you. Look out for the schedule for my lives. I hope to see any of you guys on my lives. Thank you to those who have participated in my lives. I can't wait to continue doing that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.